Welcome to channel we make your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Now today's video is all about education sector, international education. So if you are interested about to study in Australia, now this news is really important. The Minister of Education, Jason Clare, and also the Brendan O'Connor, the Minister for, I think that's business, or they all coincidentally, well together, not jointly, but together announced a major changes and updates, which were concerned for all the international students. So you may want to have a detailed listen and also share with your friend who is also an international student in Australia. So there's a major shake-up. Obviously there has been some talks about the removal of the genuine temporary entrant and introduce the GST by means of the genuine student test. Don't think there will be much of differences. It's only a way that you don't need to declare that after you study you're deemed to return back to your home country. But most of the stuff I assume will be the same, and I have listened to across the industry leaders in the immigration sector. Most of us believe the same. But okay, now Friday. Well, last Friday, obviously there has been a struck of information about the state nomination cuts, but last Friday also has some news coming from the Minister of Education, Jason Clare. So what does it read? Let's have a read and go through it, and obviously by the end of this video I'll provide some my advice as well. Okay, now action to end rorts in international education. The Albanese government is today announcing a package of measures to support integrity in the international education system. Obviously the international education for Australia is the fourth largest export industry, so it's huge. And obviously a lot of people make money out of it, but there are just some people not genuinely doing the right things. So the government is looking to close a loophole that allow education providers to shift international students who have been in Australia for less than 6 months from genuine study to arrange and designated facility access to work in Australia. So what does that really mean? Well, it will basically mean they are education providers facilitated together with some dodgy agents to actually sell off a student visa in a way that they basically tell the client that, well, look, let's utilize this visa and you come to Australia to work. Now that is not the right thing the applicant or the student is supposed to be doing, and the conduct of these agents and incorporate with these so-called education providers are, well, basically doing the wrong thing, and it will be unlawful if the legislation continue to go on that path. So there has been a shake-up of use of concurrent function in 2023. In the first half of the year, there has been 17,000 concurrent enrollment were created. Now, what does that mean, concurrent enrollment? That basically meant you're supposed to be enrolled and study in one institution whilst you have another enrollment with another education institution. Why does it happen? It's basically due to a lot of people coming on shore to Australia with the proposed study of one institution and whatever the course that is, but then they were offered some way by agents to change their course, change their institution, and that way they have seen there have been 17,000 concurrent, and that's what it resulted with. So compared to approximately 10,500 the same period in 2019, so there has been a high demand and increase of these number, which is not the right thing to do. So recently, investigation identified misuse of the concurrent enrollment as an integrative issue in the international sector. The government will also increase amount of saving international student will need to in order to have the student visa. So previously, it was just about above 20,000 per year. So from October 1st, now that is the key date. Perhaps that's the day that a lot of other visa changes will come in hand as well. Internationals will need to show evidence of 24,505 in savings, which is a 17% increase in the current level. Well, I think that's a fair way to go because everything has increased, the cost has increased. If you don't have enough money, how do you live in Australia? And this change will also ensure that students coming to Australia to study can afford to support themselves, will not face increasing risk of exploitations. So if you cannot live in Australia, obviously you are vulnerable to be exploited by dodgy employer. The government will apply additional scrutiny on high-risk cohort, ask additional document to prevent fraud applications. So we will look ahead on that policy to be done there. There will be a first time Australian government has used the power to reflect how seriously Albanese government will take an issue of a dodgy provider. Again, that's the word they're using, and the government is particularly concerned about more than, watch this, 200 providers that currently have visa refusal rate higher than 50%. Now that is a lot. 200 providers. Are you enrolled with one of these 200 dodgy providers? You gotta watch out. Now, how do you identify them? I've been doing this in my channel. It's basically the tuition fee is way lower in comparison to all the other normal education providers, and they also provide ways in dealing with multiple installment payment, which is weird. Usually it won't be like that. Usually will be one payment per semester, but if they provide 2 or 3 payment per semester, you got to watch out. Those kind of provider are generally within those 200 dodgy providers. Now, over the weekend, there's also news came out from Sydney Morning Herald. It's basically talking about the same thing. So that was on 27th of August. That's yesterday, or 5 a.m. I don't know how they wake up. I think this is all set it up, before weekend, and they just filed the news out. So okay, here we go. The skill minister, not the business minister. Okay, skill minister Brendan O'Connor has signaled a way to pursue measure in rid of the vocational education sector to corrupt provider lifting training standard after federal government shut down loophole and rolled on student visa system to let explosion of the ghost college. And if we read on the topic, further crackdown coming in vet sector to target ghost college. Now, what does that mean? Now, this is a lengthy news. I'm not going to go through all that, but basically it aligns with what the Minister of Education, Jason Clare, has actually said and what we have just gone through. And the way they use on the topic is talks about ghost colleges, basically talking about those concurrent enrollment providers. They're basically getting people enrolled with a low fee, but these students not actually going to those school. They are basically utilizing this to actually maintain on their student visa status in a way so that they can actually go out and work. So if you read down, it's basically they talked about a lot of them is actually in Melbourne. So I'm not too sure if you have enrolled into any school, private sector school in Melbourne. And again, you see this here. They were previously enrolled in the university, but then they abandoned university courses for cheap private colleges. That's exactly what I have just said. So you got to be very careful. Now, people may ask, what happened if I already enrolled in those ghost colleges? Now, what if the government come and wipe out those colleges? What will happen to your visa? It's very likely that your visa will be cancelled. So you got to be very careful, and you don't want to end up in that route. And if you search on my channel in regards to visa cancellations, once your visa got cancelled, it's very, very hard to revert it back, and you have history in your under your name, if you want to apply for further and future application, it will actually be very, very hard. So again, it's a warning. Don't get into that loophole, and let your friends and mates around know about this. Don't get into those cheap private colleges and so-called ghost colleges. Anyway, should you have more question, query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below, and I see you next video. Goodbye.